Then you hear it. A crunch of foliage outside the tent.
4 kids entered the tent, but one only walked out, and 4 years later, he was the prime suspect. Yo, it's Reaction LJ. We're diving into Finland's most sinister mystery. Let's go.
June 4th, 1960.
In
A pair of
1960,
motorcycles drive through the countryside of southern Finland, carrying 4 teenagers and their camping gear. On one motorcycle sits Seppo Boisman and his girlfriend, Anya Tuliki Maki. The other is driven by Niels Gustafsson, with his girlfriend, Mila
Whoa,
Bjorklund,
those are
in
like
the
the
back.
weird cars.
Mila's 16th birthday.
Like, in the 17 years old, they had some weird cars that I don't know why people started like liking it. It was weird seeing the cars that they had back then.
Is coming up. So it's about 3
With no
kilometers long
adults?
and 1 kilometer wide,
It's
surrounded by
not
pine and birch
right.
trees that make it
You don't know
feel quite
what would
remote
happen.
proximity
No parent
to the
knows
city
those?
of Espoo.
Nah.
At an intersection near the lake, they stop at a roadside stand. The mature woman working the kiosk is less than pleasant to them. She seems wary of their group, and when asked, she suggests that they camp far away. Confused but undeterred, the group buys some soda and beer, then heads off to find a campsite, as planned.
Yeah, but don't.
As they pull away, Mila shoots a glance back at the stand. The woman is watching them go.
Why is she watching
Mila finds
us?
herself wondering whether it's safe to camp here.
Alright, at
She's
this point,
already noticed
it's
that there are
making me
not many
really-
tents set up along the lakeshore.
really
There are
scared
plenty of
or
hikers
really
and
think
swimmers,
that the
and the
woman
occasional
knows
boat
something,
out on the lake.
or is she playing on
It
something?
seems odd that there aren't more overnight campers on the weekend. As they scoured the lakeshore for a campsite, Mila, Nils, Seppo, and Anya encounter a handful of day trippers.
That's the weirdest,
People there for
stupid
hiking
name
or fishing.
ever.
But
What
they make
parent
sure
named you
to find a
that?
nice secluded space to set up. It's
Alright.
not long before they find the perfect spot, a small outcropping on the south shore. They're right by the
Absolutely.
water, but screened from public view by the trees. They lean their 2 motorcycles.
Did you just say screen from public view? And see them? I think y'all actually took that lady's suggestion and actually camped that far on purpose. Like, why would y'all take her suggestion? You don't know what she was trying to do to y'all.
Against nearby trees and pitch a small tent that's just big enough to fit them all inside. Mila keeps thinking back to the woman who sold them their drinks, the look she gave to the 4 of them, her cryptic warning. Mila hopes that they won't get in trouble for staying here. Since this is her birthday celebration, she'd feel awful if something happened. But her concern starts to evaporate as everyone settles in by the lake. It's been an especially hot summer, so the cool breeze over the water is just what they needed. The boys crack open their beers. Anya stops complaining about how annoying her dad was about letting her go on this trip. And finally, Mila relaxes as well.
Still thinking about what your dad said.
The day comes to an end, but the sun doesn't set. They may be in southern Finland, but they're still close enough to the Arctic Circle that the sun never fully sets in the summer. It dips low until it's barely touching the horizon and stays there. And as night falls, the sky dims to a sort of warm twilight, a phenomenon known as a midnight sun. All in all, it gives everything a beautiful, eerie look.
Yeah.
By 2 a.m., both of the boys are drunk, and Anya is sleeping. It gives Mila enough privacy to make a quick entry in her diary, made possible by the light of the midnight sun. She writes that the boys are still awake, that Seppo is out fishing. She doesn't write for long, and soon she's putting away her diary to try to get some sleep.
This feel like a normal camping
That entry would be her final
nothing
words.
wrong about this one. Nothing wrong about it. There's nothing wrong about it.
9 hours later, morning, by the shores of Lake Bodom. The midnight sun has brightened to a warm summer's day once again. A local man, Esko Johansson, arrives with his 2 sons. They take in the stunning scene before them. If today's going to be anything like yesterday, it'll be perfect weather for swimming. They make a brisk walk towards the lakeshore, eager to plunge into the refreshing water. Yet, on their way, an unusual sight stops them. From a distance, it looks like a pile of trash. Suddenly, Esko seems tense, uneasy. He stops both his sons. He's going to go investigate and make sure everything's alright.
Okay.
He approaches and sees that the pile of trash is actually a tent. The body that had first drawn Esco's attention is that of Nils. He's barefoot and covered in blood. His face and skull show signs of intense blunt force trauma, and the tent beneath him is slashed to ribbons. The other body spilling out of the tent belongs to Milo. And the
Were we just on a different thing, or did we just imagine this ever happening? Cause how all of a sudden 4 friends went to this campsite, so had a good camp night, everything. Come the next day, boom, end up being a crime scene. What? Oh my god.
state of her body is even more horrifying. Next. Bones are broken, and she's cut with deep stab wounds. She's been stripped from the waist down.
Someone killed him.
Though none as extreme as Milo's.
In the middle of the night,
each of the teenagers have been stabbed and bludgeoned. They all have broken jaws and severely fractured skulls.
Yeah, this is not no normal
While searching the tent, the police make a shocking discovery. Nils is still alive. The 18-year-old boy stirs, moaning in pain. Blood bubbles up from his mouth. He can't do anything besides moan. He's severely morbidly curious about what all the commotion is about. As the number of bystanders grows, it becomes clear that the police have neglected to set up a perimeter. It's the commotion. What police are able to piece together is this. There's no out of everyone. Nils was the only one who managed to get out.
No sense.
The tent itself seems to have been roughly ransacked. Its contents scattered around the woods. A few key items are missing, including wallets and watches belonging to the boys. The shoes that Nils had been wearing, and the motorcycle keys. However, even so, the motorcycles have not been stolen, as both are still parked near the campsite. Mila still has her diary on her, but it doesn't provide any substantial clues. It seems she was too busy relaxing by the lake to note if anything was amiss. The only thing of note is that she was still awake at 2 a.m., and that both boys were drunk, though it's unsurprising for a pair of teenagers on a weekend getaway. The police also find the shoe.
It don't make any sense for a couple of teens to go on a getaway camping trip and then a couple hours later or so die the next day. Like, how that's possible? You went to a camping trip, then had some good time, and the next day just magically die out of nowhere.
A couple of birdwatchers come forward to police with the description of a potential suspect, a tall, blonde man with a square jaw. They claim that they saw him near the campsite in the early hours of the morning. This is corroborated by a 14-year-old boy who was fishing around 6 a.m. and claims to have seen a blonde man standing beside the shedded tent from afar. Neither the fishermen or the birdwatchers, however, were close enough to see the bodies. Locals continue to come forward with their own theories, their own suspects. And soon, the police are overwhelmed. What they really need is for Nils to help make sense of all of this information. He's recovering from his injuries, unable to talk to anyone, but the police are certain that once they have his account of what took place that night, the story will fall into place. But there's only one problem. As he lies in his hospital bed, Nils can't remember a thing.
Can't remember? How come?
Later on, when Nils is finally able, he gives a short statement to the police. He remembers little to nothing of the day before. His only memory of the attack is that of a dark shape which he glimpsed through the holes in their tent. Any other crucial details have been lost in the head trauma he suffered. The police, drowning in clues offered up by locals, want to see if they can jog his memory. After he's discharged from the hospital, they pay him another visit, and with his consent, they hypnotize Nils and ask him again, who killed your friends? What did you see?
So they hypnotize
him. In his interview, the results are more concrete.
So basically what they're trying to do is they're going to hypnotize him and then tell him, now when I snap my finger, you'll remember everything that happened the day before. All your friends die. And then boom, and you should already remember what really happened the day before friends and him got hurt or died.
Nils describes the attack, fighting to get free of the tent, as the intruder batters away from the outside. He says he got free of the canvas, only for the mysterious man to kick him in the jaw, breaking it and knocking him unconscious. Afterwards, he was left for dead. Nils describes the attacker as a man around 20 to 30 years old, about 5'8", with blonde hair combed back and a strong chin.
I'm confused.
This is promising news. His description seems to match up with the figure multiple eyewitnesses placed near the scene. The police hypnotized the 14-year-old who claimed to have seen the blonde man, and again ask for a description. He says the same thing. A blonde man with a square jaw. Using the descriptions given by Nils and the eyewitness, the police are able to create a rough composite sketch of the man they're looking for. The 3 deceased teens are buried the following week. The event is photographed by the press, and when these photos are developed afterwards, they reveal something that no one noticed at the time. Among the crowd of heartbroken mourners, there stood an unidentified man, a blonde man with a strong jawline. The authorities...
You came to your own murder scene. You came to crimes that you did on the teen. And you still don't even know it, that one teen is still alive. Damn. He don't even know that one teen is still alive. He thought he killed all of them. But why show up? Out anything. No criminal will ever thought to show up to a murder that they did. Because it can be so easy for a cop to realize, wait, we finally found you, and it'll be like, that.
First real lead on a suspect comes from the staff of Helsinki Surgical Hospital, located about 25 kilometers southeast of Lake Bodom. On June 6th, the Monday after the murders, a distressed blonde man is brought into the ward. He's requested urgent assistance, though the doctors don't notice anything physically wrong with him. His background is shrouded in mystery due to his habit of lying and exaggerating his past.
Don't tell me.
Unsubstantiated claims Hans has made about himself include that he was a Nazi guard at Auschwitz, was reassigned when he fell in love with a Jewish woman, and that he was recruited by the KGB after the war. In spite of his suspect backstory, Hans has an airtight alibi. He claims he was with a girlfriend in Helsinki at the time, and she and her family confirm this story. It would have been nearly impossible for him to drive all the way to Lake Bodom, commit a gruesome crime, and get back to Helsinki without them noticing.
That is more. It would definitely be hard for him to come all the way back to Lake Bodom and then go all the way back to where his girl told him. That would be real confusing. Because how you going to go to Lake Bodom, kill someone, and then come all the way back where your girl told you? Or he's lying about it.
The authorities dismiss him as a suspect, confident that he's not the man they're looking for.
He probably is.
And his red-stained clothes
are
never tested. Around this time, another suspect comes to their attention. It's a local named Carl Chillstrom. 50 years old, Carl owns the roadside stand that the 4 teens visited before heading to the lake. Though often day-to-day operations are handled by his wife and 12-year-old daughter, his wife had directly interacted with the victims on the day before the murder, while selling them soft drinks and beer. Carl is the reason there were so few campers by that side of the lake. He's known to be a temperamental alcoholic who treats the shore of Lake Bodom like it's his backyard.
Wait a minute.
With campers and day trippers over the years, and has been known to throw rocks at people, cut the cords of tents, and even fire warning shots with his shotgun. He looks nothing like the blonde man in the police sketch, but otherwise he fits the perfect profile of someone who would have a violent outburst at noisy teens.
Person that hate you. Have I got some news for you. If you enjoyed this story, there are 11 other mysteries for you to listen to right now. Listen to Late Night with Neptune. I love you, y'all. So to tell me us to go watch more of his videos.
1969. 9 years after the murders by Lake Bodom.
Wait, what we at 1969?
Carl Chillstrom, at the tail end of his most recent binge, his daughter, now 21, has had enough. The two of them get into a heated argument, during which she threatens
Yeah.
to call the police. Carl leaves the house to cool off and finds a neighbor who will lend a sympathetic ear. The two men spend the afternoon together, and their conversation eventually turns serious, extremely serious. Carl confesses that something has been quietly eating away at him for years.
What?
That he, Carl Chillstrom, is the man responsible for the Lake Bodom murders.
So you felt guilty when you did it. But why would you do that? Them kids were not hurting nobody, wouldn't even do anything, and we just trying to have some fun. Parents allowed them to camp alone. Like, what made you thought it was a good thing to harm and hurt 3 young teens? Something definitely wrong with you.
The neighbor, alarmed by this confession, replies that there's nothing for Carl to do. He might as well just walk into the lake, because he has no future but jail if he confesses to the police. Carl falls silent for a long
your freedom will be over.
Then finally asks for another drink.
Your neighbor is not wrong.
That evening, someone tells Carl's son that his father was seen swimming in the lake a little before 6 p.m. Alarmed, Carl's son borrows a boat, speeding to his father's swimming spot, but he can't find him out on the water anywhere. The family calls the local authorities. Before long, Carl's body is found, 3 meters from where the murders took place. He's clothed, with a pair of wine bottles floating alongside him. At first, Carl's wife rushes to defend her dead husband, insisting that the neighbor must have misunderstood what Carl was saying. But in time, she changes her tune. After years of claiming that Carl spent the night of the murders with her, she ultimately admits that Carl had slept on the couch that night. She had been too afraid of her husband to not protect him. The press labeled Carl's death as a suicide, but this was never confirmed by police. For their part, they remain unconvinced that Carl is the killer. The confession was only witnessed by one person, and under unreliable circumstances. Both men were drunk, and there's still no probable cause. Even though Carl was a drunk who did hate campers with a fiery passion, there's
no probable cause on Carl's death, but the cop already confirmed that Carl is the murderer of the 3 kids, and 3.5 kids, basically, because the last one's still alive. And Carl probably suicide himself because of all the trauma and and all the emotion and feeling that he got both of them, and the guilt that eating him alive inside, because he know if he tell the cop, his freedom will be gone. He would, and his wife would be pissed at him, because he would lose everything.
Big difference between harassing people and violently killing them.
Yeah.
For the second time in a decade, they dismiss the possibility that Carl Chillstrom is a killer.
It's a different story.
Meanwhile, the other long-dismissed Lake Bodom suspect, Hans Osman, actively cultivates a reputation as a Lake Bodom boogeyman. He eagerly tells fanciful, unverifiable stories of his life to true crime magazines. He claims, among other things, that he was a member of the German SS during the Second World War, and that he was later employed by the KGB. Though he never admits anything about Lake Bodom, it's...
Hey, drop down a comment and tell me what KBG.
It's clear that he enjoys the limelight. Finally, in 1997, at the age of 73, he invites a journalist to his deathbed. In a rambling interview, he alleges his own involvement in a number of unspecified crimes. The journalist assumes that Hans is referencing another unsolved double murder in the area from 1959, just a year before Lake Bodom case, in which for a while it seemed like nothing new would ever happen to revive interest in Lake Bodom. Any hope at truth has been lost to time and crime scene mismanagement. The 90s roll into the early 2000s, and then, shockingly, there's a sudden development. Forensic science has advanced considerably since the 1960s, prompting re-examination of old evidence. This directs police to a new suspect, and it's one who's been hiding under their nose the entire time.
New suspect?
April 2004. Nils Gustafsson has lived a normal life for the past 45 years.
So if this been a new, not a new crime, but if this been actually real, I wouldn't even know. I would one at that time, so I wouldn't even know what really was happening what happened one. So this probably is true. Probably a true story. But we can't tell until we finish it. So let's finish it and see if it's really true.
In his early 60s, he's retired with a wife and 2 kids. The events of Lake Bodom seem so distant now, like they happened to another man in another life.
Maybe.
That is, until he receives a visit from the police. They tell him that he's under arrest for the murder of Anya, Mila, and Seppo.
For what?
There's
like,
no
what
statute of limitations on murder.
Bro,
the blunders the police made back in 1960 make it a particularly thorny case to relitigate. But one particular piece of evidence seems to have opened up new possibilities. The bloody shoes that belonged to Nils. The ones that were found over a kilometer away from the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
A forensic analysis of the shoes determines that the blood came from Nils' murdered friends, but none of it is from Nils himself. The conclusion prosecutors draw from this is that the killer was wearing shoes when he attacked the tent, and the killer, by this reasoning, is Nils himself. The original description Nils gave of the attacker, that of the blonde man with the square jaw, is no longer considered relevant, as it was given under hypnosis. And so, Nils is held in jail for a year, preparing for his defense. While he waits...
Wait a minute. So, what a live team gave y'all, and gave out that description of the blonde man with a long jaw, wasn't really him. So basically, it was like his mind was foggy, and he just imagined like what he saw at that time.
Becomes a media sensation. Long dormant speculation about the murders splashes across tabloid headlines. It's now where they have a juicy new angle to explore in this case. The lurid story of a teen who murdered his girlfriend and got away with it for 45 years. 2005.
Oh, so they compared that story to...
After midnight, Seppo attempted to calm him down. This was unsuccessful, sparking a fight between the 2 boys. Seppo had won this fight, explaining the blunt force trauma that Nils suffered to his jaw and skull. Seppo then returned to their tent, leaving the defeated Nils behind. Sometime after 4 a.m., when he was sure the others were asleep, Nils returned to the tent with a knife and a rock. He viciously stabbed and bludgeoned his friends to death, then made it look like a burglary. He took the keys for the motorcycles, Seppo's leather jacket, their wallets and watches, and got rid of them somewhere nearby, likely the lake. This explains why the motorcycle keys were missing, but the murderer did not use either vehicle for a quick getaway. Once he staged the scene, Nils got rid of his shoes and returned to the scene of the crime, where he laid down beside his dead girlfriend and waited for their bodies to be discovered. The injuries Nils had received earlier that evening at the hands of Seppo helped make it seem as if the killer had attacked him as well. The prosecution's case hangs on 2 key pieces of evidence.
No. Yo, I just realized it. So, Mills was the one. Oh, so Mills. You staged the whole fucking thing, then lied to
Nil, been found lying on top of the tent, had only received the other pieces of
that was the
evidence are
smartest
circumstantial.
thing you could ever done.
The state of the bodies
But
implies
stupid
things
too.
about the killer that the prosecution
Getting
say can
drunk
only
and
be
killing
explained by their
everybody,
story. Of the
that
3
you and your girl
bodies,
had?
Mila's was
Like, come
left
on.
in the worst state. She was stabbed many times, even after she died, and her lower body was stripped naked. This, the prosecution
You
says,
stabbed her
shows us that Nils was
multiple
furious
times
at his
and
girlfriend
stripped her-
in particular.
Oh my
A
God.
random burglar would not target one of the 2 girls so brutally. Nils' lawyer does not account for the blood on the shoes, nor does she account for the awful state of Mila's body. But she does provide a stirring rebuttal to the
Wait.
allegation that her client
It
is some
took
sort
y'all-
of mastermind at staging a crime scene.
Still, the thing where he said it took them 45 years later to actually find out that Mill was the one who the killer. So when Carl, so did Mill go on and kill Carl because Carl probably knew who did it?
If the prosecution is to be believed, then that means Nils committed a crime of passion out of blind rage, then arranged the scene meticulously to hide his
So a lot of
horrible
people who
deeds.
get that drunk
She implies
actually
that someone
do
who
the
has just
stupidest
murdered 3
thing
people
out
on
of rage.
violent impulse does
He
not
said,
lie down.
like, when you like highly drunk, like I'm talking about, like the drunkest you ever been, like to the point where you're about to die, you end up getting mad or end up raging out of anger.
Pretend to be unconscious beside his victims.
Yeah.
Besides, there's a factor that the prosecution has completely overlooked. The severity of the injuries Nils received that same night.
I thought it
When
was
he was
somebody
picked up
else.
by police,
But
Nils
we
had a
had to
broken jaw
realize,
and skull fracture.
It couldn't be nobody else. Could anybody come from somewhere, kill them, harm him, and then go and leave like that without no trace, no nothing? So that's why I made the cop really think it happened to someone that already been in Finland.
The prosecution story alleges that these injuries came from a fight with Seppo sometime after 2 a.m. while Mila was writing her diary entry and Anya was probably already asleep. This means that Seppo hurt his friend badly enough that Nils couldn't even talk the following morning. Would a young man with head injuries this severe be able to overpower 3 people even if he surprised them? Would he have been able to walk half a mile away from the campsite to dispose of his incriminating shoes before returning and pretending to be unconscious? Head wound. Nils, for his part, maintains that his own memory of the night in question is spotty, thanks to his head injuries. In the end, the jury finds Nils not guilty. He's released from custody and is allowed to return to his...
Whoa! Why would you let someone who staged a murder scene free? Why would you grant him his freedom back? He staged a murder scene, Judge. Like, is your head alright, Judge? Because I can't allow someone who staged a murder scene and have all the evidence point towards him. I could not let him grant his freedom back. Judge, you need to think about this.
But even still, he's not done with his life in the spotlight. The last year has been a harrowing relitigation of the most traumatic event of his life. And so, Nils sues the Finnish government for unjustified imprisonment. The case is settled, and Nils walks away with the payment of nearly 45,000 euros.
40,000?
Nils' life eventually...
Wait. How much is 40,000 euros in US dollar? I'm gonna look that up after the video over and see. Cause I wanna know.
To normal. Was it Carl Kjellstrom, who was often violent towards campers at the lake he considered his property? Was it Nils Gustafsson, who committed a crime of passion that could never be proven in court? Or was it a random person, long since disappeared, somewhere in Finland? Curiously, another suspect came to light in the late 1960s, just a couple months before Carl took his own life. A man named Pentti Soininen, who hanged himself while in prison. For many years, he bragged to fellow inmates that he committed the Lake Bodom murders. He did indeed grow up near Lake Bodom, but otherwise his claims were given little credit.
For one, if he didn't do that, don't go around the jail cell or around town telling people, oh, well, cause you're gonna make people really think you actually did a murder. And you probably didn't. So don't brag that you did something and didn't actually do anything. Don't brag about anything.
Soininen was only 14 or 15 years old at the time of the murders, and it seems unlikely he could have overpowered 4 people, 2 of whom were 18-year-old men. Though guilty of plenty of other crimes, Soininen is considered innocent in the Lake Bodom murders.
As an 18-year-old, if you got that strength, you probably can overpower an adult, right? So I can see him probably not be able to overpower an adult, but for you to go and overpower them and kill the others.
Perhaps the murderer's name was never known to police at all. The tall blonde man, supposedly on the shores that morning, and allegedly photographed among the crowd at the funeral in 1960, was never identified, even if he was just a bystander who looked suspicious to passers-by. The real murderer could be just as anonymous, a nameless face in the crowd that helped trample evidence after the killing. And lest we forget, the murder weapon has, to this day, never been found. Wherever it lies, whether at the bottom of Lake Bodom, buried on its shores, or somewhere else entirely, even the midnight sun may never reach it.
Misunderstood, so misunderstood. My temper is bad, my mission is good. I never be labeled as good. I never be labeled as mentally stable. They